Today we are not doing Chem 12 AP because that would make you guys very unhappy very quickly. We are going to go to I think it is 1.5A. There we go. No, 1.5B. You guys have another quiz coming up. What is the other quiz you have coming up? Vocab. Is there anyone who was away on Thursday and did not get the vocab list? Okay, everybody got the vocab list? Fantastic. So we are going to do a little bit of graphing just to kind of wrap up this unit. We'll do a bit of review. And then at the end of next week, I would like to have your test. Okay? So we have a 5-day week this week. And then next week we go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'd like to have your test next Thursday. Okay? Did you guys catch that? When's your test on Unit 1? Next Thursday. So quiz this Wednesday. On vocab. And then your test is Thursday, October the, find the day, October the 5th. Okay, we are right now on page 93, 93. What is this, my little glove? There it is. Have any of you seen graphs that look like this before? Where we have dots. Dot, 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 dot. Have you seen graphs like that before? Yeah, okay. They are called, at least one of the names for them is called a scatter plot. Can you guess why it's called a scatter plot? Because the dots are scattered around, yes? And we're going to be looking at correlations. What word is within correlations? There's core. I'm having trouble with my finger controls for this right now. It seems to think I want to write with my fingers, so we'll just see how this goes. There's relations, and then there's co. Okay, so basically when we're looking at a correlation, we're going to be looking at the relation between the two variables. Co means together, okay? Co means together. And relation means how they relate, obviously. And we will be looking at the relationship between two variables. So the scatter plot gives us a relationship. I'm going to use the abbreviation BW. What do you think I mean by that? BW means between. Between two variables. So in graph A, actually, before we go into graph A, what do we call this axis, the vertical axis? Do you remember which one that is? That's the y-axis, okay? And the horizontal axis is the, do you remember from math class? The x-axis, yes. And did you do any graphing in grade 8? Grade 8 science? Do you remember which variable you put on the x-axis? Yes? It's actually the independent variable. Okay, so on the x-axis goes the independent variable, and on the y-axis goes the dependent variable. I'd like you to consider graphs A, B, and C. Which of these graphs appear to have some sort of relation between the independent variable and the dependent variable? Out of graphs A, B, and C, in which one is there some sort of relation between the two variables? Yes, Jonah. In A and B, you can see as x increases, as we go from left to right, as x increases, what's happening to the y value? As x is getting bigger, yes, Jonah? Yeah, the y also increases. So that's A. In B, as x increases, so as we go from left to right, x is getting bigger, what's happening to the y value? Yes? The y value is decreasing, so the y decreases. And in part C, as x increases, what happens to y? Random stuff. It doesn't follow any particular pattern. It doesn't go up, it doesn't go down. There's no pattern. So as x increases, y also increases. This is known as a positive correlation. So if x and y do the same thing, that's a positive correlation. Can you guess what we have in graph B? Yes. That is a negative correlation. So if x is getting bigger but y is getting smaller, we have a negative correlation. I don't even know if I can fit correlation in there. I'm going to try. Correlation. if you can't fit it in, just write negative, okay? We'll deal with that later. So we have a positive correlation, we have negative correlation. What if there is no pattern? What kind of correlation do we have? We have no correlation. So those are words that you need to know for your quiz on Thursday. What are the 4 words that we've learned so far? Tell your partner, what are 4 words or concepts that we've learned so far that will be on your quiz on Wednesday? Sorry, Wednesday. Sorry, I should have said 4 new words because there's actually probably 5 or 6 words here that you could say. Yes. Sorry. It will be on all of the words on the vocab list except for, what is it? Except for interpolate, extrapolate, and I think maybe outlier. Oh, the test. The test will be on absolutely everything. So if you think about the quizzes that you've had, there's going to be a section on, writing there's going to be a chart where you write the quantities and their units. There's going to be some measuring. And then the vocab quiz is going to have some stuff like I'll give you some observations and inferences and you tell me what they are. You tell me if the observations are qualitative or quantitative. You take a look and you say, there's going to be a few like fill in the blank kind of things, like where you have to fill in the vocabulary word based on the sentence. But I don't have anything where you're going to actually have to define a word. Okay, so yeah, your test is on everything in Unit 1. Okay? All right, so what words do we have here? Let's see if we can get 6 words that are used in just this little top part of the page. Yes, Max. Negative correlation. What's another one? Positive correlation. What's another one? No correlation. Yes, Minty. Sorry, scatterplot. And there's a couple here that weren't new, but they are vocab words that we've looked at before. Independent variable and dependent variable. Tell your partner what is the difference between an independent variable and a dependent variable. Don't write that down. What do we call a variable that does not change? That does not change. Yes. Controlled variable. The variable that does not change is the controlled variable. You're not going to see a controlled variable on your graph because it should be doing absolutely nothing. Therefore, it should not be affecting your results. What is the variable that you change? That is our independent variable. What is the variable that changes in response to the independent variable? That is our dependent variable. So let's look at a couple of these examples here. Can I make this bigger? No, apparently not. I can just write with my hand. That's so annoying. I think I have to turn my computer off and on again. However, anyway, let's look here. What do we have on the x-axis in graph A? If you can't read it up here, look at your own paper. In graph A, what's on the x-axis? Minutes of study. And what is on the y-axis? Test mark. Which one do you have control over? Which one do you change? You change the minutes of study. What's the result of that? The test mark. Does it make sense that the more minutes you study, the better your test mark will be? Yes? There's going to be variances to that. In fact, you might have, and I'm going to give you another little extra here. There's always that one person, right, who they spend no time studying, and yet they're a freaking genius. You know what I mean, right? And they just score really high anyway. That point right there, that's what we call an outlier. An outlier lies outside of the regular trend of the data. Okay, it's sort of like, ooh, something strange happened here, something different happened, right? Most people, in order to score well on a test, have to spend time studying. Most people, the more time they spend studying, the better they're going to do on a test. But there's always like that one person who's like a genius, they have an IQ of like 250 or whatever it is, and they don't study at all, and they do really well. That's not sort of part of the usual trend line. That is an, what do we call it? Outlier. Okay. Now I have drawn some lines here that pass through the middle of the data, right? That passes through the middle of the data. This passes through the middle of the data. It's showing the overall trend of the data. What do you think we call that line? Yes, we call it a trend line. Okay, so this line here, that is called a trend line. Have you drawn trend lines in math? Some of you have, some of you haven't. It probably depends on, you know, whether you have math this semester or next semester or whatever. Okay, in graph A, as the x variable increases, the y variable increases, and that means we have a positive relationship or a positive correlation. Relationship and correlation, those two words essentially mean the same thing. Relationship and correlation, those mean the same. In graph B, as the x increases, the y decreases. That is a negative relationship or a negative correlation. Ooh, everybody gets a ruler. If you have your own ruler, that's fine. You want your ruler to be clear though. You want to be able to see through your ruler. So, is there anyone who does not need a ruler? I'm just going to hand out enough for the whole row and pass them along, okay? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you could take one, please, that would be great. According to this data, so now we're in the little box at the bottom of the page. What kind of relation or correlation is there between the hours of study and the test scores? Take a look at the data on the graph and tell your neighbor, what kind of correlation do we have? What are the three choices that we have? Okay, so we can choose between negative, positive, and the third choice is no correlation. So you're going to let me know if you think it is positive, you're going to go like this. If you think it's negative, you're going to go like this. And you think it's no correlation, you're going to go like this. So you're going to vote, chat with your partner, make sure you feel good about your choice. You can also be like, I don't know yet, which is perfectly valid. Okay, this is like choice number 4. I don't know yet. Are you ready? Yes, you have a question? Or are you ready? You're ready. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, go. All right, so I've got some of each. All right, so let's take a look. As we go from left to right, that means that X is increasing. What is happening to the vertical? Are we going up or are we going down? We're going up. So up is positive, okay? So uphill is a positive correlation. And in grade, I think it's in grade 10, you'll actually learn how to calculate what the slope is of that line, and you'll get a positive value. Now, what I'd like you to do with your ruler is I would like you to try with pencil, so you can erase it if you need to, drawing a trend line through that data. Try to go through the middle of the data. Don't copy what I'm doing. I'm going to ask you a question soon. All right, I have drawn 3 lines. One of them is red. One is blue. And one is green. Okay, so I have one that's red, one that's blue, one that's green. Which of those 3 lines do you like the best? Chat with your partner, take a vote. Do we like red, blue, or green? What do you guys think? Red, blue, or green? We can vote. This is the letter R, okay, in sign language, so that's an R. So you can vote for red. You can vote for B for blue. This is the letter B. What's the letter R? Cross your fingers. That's the letter R. Blue. And then G is a little tricky. G, you got to point your pointer and your thumb in the same direction. Okay? That's G. So you get to vote for red, blue, or green. 5, 4, 3, 2, go. Okay, I got some blues, I got some green, I got some of everything. So let's just take a quick look at what red looks like on its own. I don't like red particularly. Why not? Yes. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of points that are really low, and it doesn't really take that into account. Is it following the general trend? It's a lot shallower than it should be. Yes, I need a steeper slope. Okay, let's take a look at blue on its own. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Blue on its own, what do we think? It's not, because I've got on my left-hand side, I've got all the points above, and on my right-hand side, I've got all the points below. And if I get that kind of thing happening where all the points on one side are above and all the points on the other side are below, that means my slope is probably either too steep or too shallow. Okay, and now we're going to take a look at green on its own. So I've got on the left-hand side, I've got some points above and below. On the right-hand side, I've got some points below and above. Out of these three options, that's probably the best line. If you were to use Excel, have you guys ever used Excel? Anyone used Excel? Okay, Excel will draw a graph for you, and it will draw this trend line for you, and it will draw it where it is supposed to go. For grade 9, you don't have to be able to use Excel. You just have to be able to kind of go, I should have about the same number of points above and below. Okay, so we should have about the same number of points above and below. But you don't want like all the above ones to be on the left and all the below ones to be on the right. Okay? The most important thing is that it should follow the trend of the data. And that's why we call it a trend line, because it follows the trend. Okay. So here we have just a little summary. Positive is uphill. negative is downhill. Okay, 2 more words you're going to learn, but they really mean the same thing. Trend line, you've already learned that word. It's also known as a line of best fit. It's the line that best fits your data. And by that same token, we could just call it the best fit line. These are all the same. And there's nothing new on this page. It just sort of summarizes what we've already said. It's a line you draw on a scatter plot. It should follow the general trend of the data. And it should pass through the middle of the data points. And you'll have approximately the same number of data points above as below. All right, and so here are some trend lines. You'll notice that there's about the same number above as there are below. There's 7 points above, 7 points below. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points above, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points below, and 1 on the line. You don't have to get exactly the same number above as below, as long as it's mostly following the trend of the data. I'm not marking on perfection here. I'm like, have you done a good job, or have you drawn your line like this? That has the same number of points above as below. What's wrong with it though? My red line here. What's wrong with my red line? Yes. It's not that close to the other points, right? You got to make it closer to all the data. You got to make it go through the middle of the data, okay? So we don't want like that. All right. Oh, by the way, tell your partner, what kind of correlation do we have here? What kind of correlation is shown in the graph? Is it positive? Is it negative? Or is it no correlation? We're going to vote one more time. Remember, positives like this, negatives like this, no correlations like this. 5, 4, 3, 2, go. We have negative correlation because it is going which direction? Uphill or downhill? Negative because it's going downhill. Okay. And here we're just showing which of these 3 graphs is good. Which is the best? Is it A? Is it B? Or is it C? Tell your partner, which one do you like the best? Which trend line is the best? Which one do we like? See? Excellent. Graph A, is it too steep or is it too shallow? Too steep or too shallow? Steep. Graph B, is the trend line is too shallow. And then we have the Goldilocks of trend lines. This one is just right. You guys know Goldilocks, the story? Yeah? And if you don't, you can go look it up, Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Okay, in grade 9, you are expected to be able to eyeball and draw a best fit line. The best tool for this is a clear plastic ruler, so you can see the points both above and below the line. That's why we use a clear plastic ruler. You can try, if you have trouble just eyeballing it, like most of the time I just take my ruler and I go smock and I put it in the middle of the points and then I draw my line. And you are quite welcome to do that. There is a method that sometimes people use if they have trouble figuring out where the trend line should be. You can draw a shape that encloses all of the data. So you kind of just draw a shape around where all the data is, getting as close to the points as possible. Yes? Then you're going to draw a line that divides that area into two even-sized areas. So two areas with the same amount of space in them. Okay? Why would you scroll before and now you not scroll? Computer, you make me not happy. Sorry, having a moment. All right, so we have now divided our area in half. We have the part that's above and the part that's below, and that's going to be our trend line. Once you've done that, you'll get rid of the shape you've drawn around the outside because that's not really a part of your graph. So the next step would be I've drawn my trend line and now I get rid of the shape. Okay? It is not necessary. What you'll notice here is this trend line actually touching any of the points? Does it go through any of the points, the middle of any of the points? No, your trend line does not actually have to touch any of the points. It can, but it doesn't have to. Yeah. So you can either eyeball, throw down your ruler and make it work, or you can use the smooth blobby shape method to draw a trend line through the following scatter plot. So give that one a try. Okay, you're giving this one here a try. Okay, so get your clear plastic ruler, try drawing a trend line through that. Does your line look approximately like what I've got here? Kind of, mostly? Okay, hopefully it's not going this way. That would be not happy. Okay, so it should be going down, and if it's going down, we have a what? There's two words you would need to say. We have a negative. Tell your partner what the other word is. Correlation. Yay. Okay, good. Now, other ways of classifying correlations. If your data is tight, if it's all close to the trend line, okay, so if it clusters tightly to the trend line, then we have a high correlation. We have a high correlation if it clusters tightly to the trend line. And quite frankly, you can't really tell whether something is high or low correlation unless you're comparing. You can say the graph on the left has higher correlation and the graph on the right has lower correlation, because if we try drawing your trend lines in there, try drawing the trend lines for those two graphs. Yes, yeah. I'm kind of guessing on that one, but you know. So if the graph on the right is high correlation, the graph on the left is high, the graph on the right is low. What it basically means is if you were to draw your blobby shape, this blobby shape would be quite close to the trend line. If you draw your blobby shape here, it's a little further from the trend line. And having drawn that, it makes me actually want to make my slope a little less steep than I have it. I might choose to make it a little more shallow. Okay, but you know, close enough, right? You can have a high negative correlation, draw your trend line, and a low negative correlation. Hopefully your lines look something like these. There's another type of correlation, Every single line falls on, or sorry, every single point falls exactly on the line. What kind of correlation do we have then? Perfect correlation. Perfect positive correlation, perfect negative correlation. So you can see we have perfect positive, strong positive, weak positive, no correlation. This is a really good page if you just want, you know, your vocabulary like really clear. We got weak negative, strong negative, and perfect negative. What could we use instead of weak and strong? Instead of a weak negative correlation, we could also call that a low. And instead of strong, we could say high. Now, just because two things both go up at the same time, or one goes up and the other goes down, and they correlate with one another, does not mean that one necessarily causes the other. You'll hear this expression, correlation does not necessarily mean causation. And we're going to look at an example to see what exactly that means. So here is an example. Okay, during the months of February and March, the weekly number of jars of strawberry jam, we got jars of strawberry jam sold at a local market in New York was recorded. For the same time frame, the number of units of a popular gaming console sold in Florida was recorded. Yes? Yep. The data was examined and plotted on a graph. If we look at our data here, we can see that there is a what type of correlation between these two sets, these two variables. What kind of correlation do we have? Tell your partner. A blank blank correlation. Draw your trend line. What do we call this? Is this, yes. This is a high positive correlation. Do you think, though, that the jars of jam sold in New York made the number of gaming consoles sold in Florida increase? Did the number of gaming consoles sold in Florida depend upon the jam sold in New York? If you're saying yep, I know you're being sarcastic, so I'm okay with that. All right, but no, they have absolutely no actual cause and effect. There is no cause and effect relationship here. So we can have a correlation, but no cause and effect. Maybe people just maybe the economy just went up. You know what I mean? Like it's usually that there's some other factor out there affecting things and we just don't know what it is based on our graph. The economy got better over the course of those 2 months. More people got jobs, and so they're spending more money across the country on all things like jam and gaming consoles. Yes? Now, for homework, what I would like you to do is questions 1 through 8. Actually, do questions 1 through 10. There we go. So that is on pages 99 and 100. Oh yeah, it's fine.